All right, everyone. Good afternoon. And if you're on the West Coast, good morning to you. My name is Dr. David Kunick. I'm going to be your host and also the moderator for the investor pitch part of today's event. If you were expecting Tracy Ryan today to be the moderator of the entire, or to be the host of today's event, in this day and age, sometimes things come up and sometimes people just aren't feeling too well. Tracy, fortunately, wasn't feeling too well today, so I'm stepping in for her. So if you're expecting to see Tracy today present or to host, our apologies, and you're stuck with me, Dr. David. But trust me, that's a good thing for you. So with that being said, today the Investor Hot Seat is a 4-hour webinar, and our goals are to entertain, educate, and connect companies from very different industry sectors that are seeking additional capital and in the hunt for new investors and sources of funding. What's really exciting for today is that we have a special lineup of industry leaders and investors participating in I repeat, four panels discussing various topics and sharing their experience in investing as well as building companies. After this, it'll be followed up by a lineup of 8 innovative companies that'll be presenting their investment opportunity to a panel of experienced investor judges. And these 8 companies that are presenting are all seeking additional forms of capital to help grow their company. At the end of our webinar, we'll have our investor judges, as well as you, the audience, vote on what is the best, the 8 companies, which was the best that presented today. So raising capital to fund the growth of a company is hard work. And let's face it, all of us here have tried to raise capital before. It's not an easy thing to do. And people that are raising capital are trying to raise capital all over the world. We are excited today to be joined on this webinar by an audience of investors, industry professionals, and entrepreneurs located in countries including, but not limited to, Canada, Colombia, Costa Rica, India, Israel, Mexico, Panama, the United Kingdom, here in the United States, and plus many more. So welcome everyone, and let's get this party started today. So the way today's webinar is going to work is the following. We're going to have our first 4 panel discussions. The first panel discussion will be about serial entrepreneurs, investors. The second panel discussion will be investing in hemp opportunities. The third panel will be plant-based medicine, a global investing opportunity. And last but not least, the fourth panel discussion today will be maximizing celebrity partnerships. And that should be an excellent panel, so make sure you stay tuned for that. After that, from about 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we will have our investor pitch competition, which will be moderated by myself. And as I mentioned before, we will have 8 presenting companies that will be presenting in front of investor judges. Afterwards, we'll have our votes, and we will announce our winner. And following that, we'll have our closing announcements. What is key to remember is that after we do the judging, there's still more to this event. We're actually going to have a Zoom room networking event, which I will explain momentarily what that is. And I recommend everyone here, including the companies that are presenting, the investor judges, as well as the participants, to make sure you join us afterwards for that Zoom room networking, because networking is part of the key to get yourself funding and to make those key contacts. So before we begin our first panel, let's go over some just general webinar rules and just kind of food for thought for us. First off, if you want to submit a question, make sure you go to the chat button on the bottom of your screen. Once again, if you want to submit a question, make sure you use the chat button on the bottom of your screen, and make sure you click the little button that says chatting with all panelists and attendees. Once again, click the button in the chat room that says all panelists and attendees. The second thing is that after the last company presents today, you will see a pop-up window on your computer to vote for the best company in your opinion that presented today. Currently, the format we're on right now is actually called a Zoom webinar. When we do the Zoom networking room afterwards, you'll have the opportunity to, as I mentioned, to interact with the speakers, investor judges, and the presenting companies from today. To join the Zoom room networking, you'll need to register again for the Zoom meeting. You were emailed the Zoom link prior to today's event, so make sure you check your email for that. However, though, If you can't find it, at the end of today, you'll see a post for the registration link for today's Zoom link room in the chat. So have no fear, you'll be able to get access to the networking event after today. Now, with that being said, to the presenting companies and the speakers today, I'm going to do my best to bring your questions to the audience. We also recommend to the presenting companies that you pay attention to the chat room yourself too, because you're going to have some questions. And if you're a panelist today, after you're done speaking, make sure you check the chat room again, because you might have some questions directed solely towards you. And this is a great opportunity for you, the panelists, to also connect with our participants today. And when we have participants from all around the world joining us, you do not want to miss out on that opportunity. So with that being said, if you have any questions, if you need access to the webinar agenda, if you need access to the presenting companies, you need access to the investor judges, or you want some more information about all the wonderful speakers we're going to have today, have no fear. The Investor Hot Seat website is online, and you can go to investorhotseat.com. Once again, you can go to investorhotseat.com. And Ron, if you can you please put that link in the chat room right now so all our participants can see that, please. So with that being said, let's get this started, and let's start off with our first panel discussion. And for today's panel discussion, the very first one is about serial entrepreneur investors. Our two panelists today are going to be Greg Steinberg, CEO of Greenway DNA, as well as Jeffrey Allman, CEO of Good4. What I would like to start off with, because I'm the moderator for today, is Greg Steinberg. I'd like you to spend 2 minutes to describe your background and your history. So you have 2 minutes to tell us a little about your history, please.
Sure. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Jeff, good to see you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on this Thursday. I've been investing in many different industries for close to 40 years, always early stage companies, usually where I'm actively engaged in some capacity, very seldom passive over that period of time, and actively engaged from either a board perspective, advisor perspective, or taking something more operational in terms of that investment. And I've been looking at sort of core things across, really regardless of industry. I've been involved in technology and healthcare, obviously in cannabis, in CPG products and very services related types of industries across those decades. And certainly a common thing I've seen across all of them in terms of sort of my thesis in terms of investment is around really 6 core pieces, which is around team, around the technology, around market differentiation of the company, around competitive advantage, market opportunity on a broad basis, and really looking at companies that are looking at where the puck's going versus where the puck is currently. So let me leave it at that and hand it over to you, David, or over to Jeff.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that background, Greg, and I appreciate the details. Jeff, approximately, you have 2 minutes. Please tell us about your history as an entrepreneur and as an investor too, please.
Yes. Hi. Well, first of all, hello from Superior, Colorado, right next door to Denver, excuse me, to Boulder. I'm a serial entrepreneur with, fortunately, more entrepreneurial successes than the few stinking entrepreneurial messes happen with any entrepreneur hitting for the fences. And Good4.us is my latest, and I think it'll be my greatest. But in 1976, which I was a young child then, I started doing something that nobody else wanted to do: video dating, paying thousands of dollars at the time to find someone who ring on the finger, and we used video, which was the new technology at the time. We did it very well. We built it and sold it in 1995 to a NASDAQ about $20 billion a year company, a bank, financial services, bank buying a dating service, video dating. They did. We did about $150 million in revenue. A lot of that was profits. International company, franchises, company owned, lots of marketing of all kinds, direct marketing mostly. There was no monthly subscription, so we lost out on that. That really wasn't a big thing at the time. We mailed maybe about just short of a $1 billion business direct mail pieces. We did 30-minute infomercials. We did award-winning 60-second radio commercials. It was very personal. It wasn't a hard sell, it was a heart sell, which meant it was even more difficult. It was cutting edge. We made certain it was not bleeding edge. And so on some of my biggest successes and two of my failures, they've been cutting edge in services. This is my first products company. So I'm learning a lot about social influencers and the like.
Great. So, Jeff, thank you for that background. Quick background about myself. My name is Dr. David Kunick. I'm actually a doctor of physical therapy, and I actually hold a second doctorate in healthcare management. I've been blessed to have started 13 companies in the past 18 years. I've successfully sold 7 of those companies. In terms of cannabis, I've started 7 different cannabis companies in 5 different states. Back in 2009, I raised a quick 14 million, which wasn't the easiest thing to do back in 2009 in cannabis, and took my company public. We were one of the first 1,500 publicly traded company, one of the first 1,500 publicly traded companies in cannabis here in America. One of the things I always like to talk to people about is I really take a medical approach towards business, and the type of companies I've started is from physical therapy clinics to personal training centers to pain management clinics to merchant services to dispensaries to cannabis testing labs to a vaporizer company. So with that being said, enough about me. Greg and Jeffrey, you two are a ball of knowledge. And we have people here that really want to pick your brain. So the questions I'm going to ask you is to really give the audience something that they can really utilize right away and something that, will give them that aha moment to make them think. So the first question I have for both of you is this. And Jeff, I'm going to have you answer this question first, okay?
Okay.
In your opinion, Greg and Jeff, what is the difference between the 90s and the 2010s as an entrepreneur as well as an investor? And each of you have about 2.5 minutes to respond. And Jeff, I'll let you go first.
Okay, well, old tech, new tech. Back then, the internet wasn't much of a thing, more than Prodigy and the beginnings of AOL, et cetera. So everything that we have in digital marketing, research, product development, does something work creatively, A/B testing, all customer, mall intercepts. It was done the old-fashioned way, if you will, face-to-face, et cetera, because online wasn't a choice. So when we talked about direct marketing, it was getting a direct mail piece or watching TV, call 800, get this. And if you act now, you get a set of Ginsu knives, et cetera, et cetera. Word of mouth was different then. Credibility was different in many respects. The FTC, of course, but celebrities were believed. So they were paid a lot of money. What's the difference with today, I guess? And they endorsed products and services. We chose not to do that. Back then, sampling was very important, but like for a dating service, video dating, you're not going to, you could show people real members, but they had to believe you. So you really had to establish credibility. Nowadays, anybody can appear to be credible. What's very different.
So Jeff,
you've got to prove that your thing works.
So Jeff, let me ask you this then. In less than a minute, as an investor, what's the difference you see in between the 90s and the 2010s, just solely as an investor?
Oh, you can make a lot more money today, a lot faster.
Okay.
Especially in hot industries, but you must distinguish yourself. Just because you build something doesn't mean, people are going to come, quoting, Field of Dreams, et cetera. Faster results. We used to, back in the 90s, MTV was fast, very fast. Now MTV is like super slow.
Thank you for sharing that. And Greg, once again, I'll ask the same question to you. What is the difference, in your opinion, between the 90s and the 2010s as an entrepreneur, but also as an investor? And you have about 2.5 minutes to respond, please.
For sure. No problem. David, thank you. And to build on Jeff's comments, I think, sort of 3 core pieces. One, Jeff just mentioned it, right? I mean, just the nature of technology, things are moving way faster. And so, either as an entrepreneur or as an investor looking at a company or looking at the market, that window of opportunity, that window of time to be successful, to get something started, to hit a competitive stride. That timeline is much shorter now than it was between the 90s and the 2010s, 2020s for sure. I think the knowledge of the consumer, from a purchasing perspective, is way greater, in the ability to get knowledge about those purchasing habits, or about companies, or about technologies, or competitors, or other products out there, is obviously way easier to do today than it was back in the 90s. So again, coming back to time and hitting that stride fast is way more important now, way more critical to success than it was then. And I also think the investor, entrepreneurial investor, early stage investor, is way more savvy today than they were in the 90s. And so for the entrepreneur looking for an investment, they're dealing with a more knowledgeable investor. And so therefore, that comes back to what that investor is looking for in terms of that entrepreneurial activity, right? So I think it comes down to some of the things I was talking about before that are really critical today, always have been critical, but because of these issues, an experienced team versus a brand new team, way tougher to attract capital today for the new team than the experienced team, right? Going to where the puck's going to be versus where the puck has been or puck is, and that vision, that market opportunity, that competitive advantage, the technology around it, et cetera, way more important today than it was then, because they're just, the runway and window of opportunity just isn't there. So, that experience brings the ability to not worry about the fear of failing fast, because that's a core component that every entrepreneur has to think about today, probably way more than they did in the 90s, is it's okay to fail and to pivot.
It is, and I think it's really interesting. You both of you brought up a really good point, especially about the internet. Not to date myself, but I remember my senior year in high school. My final for a class was actually to send an email with an attachment, and that was it. And I remember taking me and my father over 2.5 hours to figure out how to put an attachment and to send it out. And Greg, I also think you bring up a really good point, is that there's a lot of great opportunities out there now. And there's a lot of different ways to sit here and especially we talk about management teams, because we're really seeing that now in the last maybe year to 2 years in the cannabis and hemp sector, where you're seeing a lot more experienced management teams coming to market. So with that being said, the second question I have for you, gentlemen, and Greg, I'm going to have you answer this question first, please, is we have a lot of people here who've been investing for less than 10 years, and both of you have been investing for more than 10 years. So my question for both of you is, what piece of advice can you share with our investors that have less than 10 years of experience investing? What piece of advice would you recommend to people who have less than 10 years of investing? And Greg, you have about 2.5 minutes to answer this question.
No worries. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I think one of the things I certainly learned early is, which I said, as part of my kickoff, was, passive investing versus active investing. And if you're going to be a passive investor, then much better to chat with some of the other people that are on this call today that do it professionally, and invest in their fund, invest in their their knowledge base, and invest through them, because they're actively engaged in what they're doing, and in fact actively engaged with portfolio companies. If you're not going to be actively engaged with a portfolio company, then work with those that are. And if you're going to do it yourself, then I would say being active, whatever that means, is really, really critical, especially in early stage companies. Most entrepreneurs, I'm no different in companies that I've got, look for more than just capital from their early investors. It's about strategic investment, right? And people that can bring assistance and success. And so, looking as an investor is who else is around the table from that investor perspective, who else is sitting around, and from a board perspective, an advisor perspective, et cetera.
So
Those are
Greg,
really
let me ask you
critical.
this. Would you say be more of an advisor role, or more like a mentorship?
Somewhat interchangeable to a certain extent, but I think it's advisor, mentor, ability to open doors, ability to help miss the potholes that are going to come because we've already fallen into them, and figured out how to crawl our ways out of them or not, which teaches lessons as well. And so I think those are critical components. And it's at the end of the day, it's about team. And I've got early stage companies I'm engaged with, and driving Greenway is one of them. And for us, I look at it as an entrepreneur and as an investor in the same way. It's about building the team and having a really strong team around that has the ability to do that, and building a very strong investor pool that can bring insights and knowledge and experience and expertise. And because it's a short window of opportunity to go get that competitive landscape moved forward, is people that can help do that by their connections, resources, expertise,
Great.
experience, etc.
Awesome, Greg. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. And once again, Jeff, the question is, what is your piece of advice for an investor with less than 10 years of investing experience? What advice would you give them, Jeff?
First of all, I like everything Greg said. So repeat. I'd say there are three key things. Who will buy my product or service, and how to effectively, efficiently, cost effectively in particular, reach them. A second would be how to distinguish yourself. Why is your product good for them? How is it different? How is it beneficial? Is it just a race to money, a race to the bottom? Well, that's not so good. The third thing is having a team with flesh in the game. I'm not trying to demean it by calling our serious business a game, but I hope you can appreciate the cliche. People can be replaced. It's easy and we're all dispersed. We're no longer in expensive office buildings or whatever. We're everywhere. Somebody could be on the beach in Mexico. Somebody could be anywhere, but people are replaceable. The learning curve is critical. And if you're in the process of raising money and your key people have left or are leaving, well, what does that say? It's something to be considered. The next thing is you want to partner with other companies, not so much individuals, but other companies you're not competitors, but you're offering something that's supplementary, complementary, beneficial to them, especially if it's marketing, advertising, PR, postcards, printing, labeling, products, rent, whatnot. There's a lot of money out there. Oh my goodness, it's a wash. America is awash with money for the wealthy and nothing for the middle class and poor. So that's obvious and awful. But if you want to raise money, it's not just family offices, but it's high net worth individuals. But they still are not going to throw away their money. They're just not. They're going to be very careful, because it's so easy to research you online and all your team members, et cetera. And you must prove that your product or your service works. You just can't say sales puffery. And don't worry about the FDA or FTC as much. Worry about a customer. Worry about satisfying an investor. Don't ask your mom, because
and Jeff, Jeff, I think you bring up a really good point. And for everyone listening to this panel, is you talk about working with other companies, other people that could complement what you're offering. And the one thing I always tell people is that in medicine, we talk about the multidisciplinary approach, like using the cardiologist, the primary care physician, the neurologist, and they all work together in harmony. But you can also do that in business too. And if we were to talk about the cannabis and hemp sector, we're really seeing a lot of companies now saying, wait, I can work with a transportation company. I can work with a distribution company. I can work with a labeling company. Like, there's a lot of crossover. So you bring up some good points. Now, gentlemen, we have time for one last question. Jeff, I'm going to have you answer this question first. And here it is. What are the top 3 reasons why you are investing your time, energy, and your capital into your current project that you're working on?
And reputation, and family who expects you to succeed and doesn't want to see you fail, and they want some comfortable, bragging rights, etc. The reason is kind of simple. It's health and wealth, whether it's mental health or physical health, and certainly wealth is wealth. When I sold one company, I had darn you money, not F you money. And that's a big difference. So I took, in my case, more flyers than I could. I should have been more careful in many respects. You do need to succeed fast or fail fast. You must have cash, because if your people are not all in, if they're not have the entrepreneurial mindset and ability to go without compensation for a period of time that you need them to join you, and they're not your equal partners, you can have a problem.
Great.
You can have a problem.
And Greg, once again, what are the top 3 reasons why you're investing your time, energy, and capital into your current project you're working on?
Thanks, David, for asking that. And so I think, the this core project, Greenway DNA, sort of hits the buckets that I mentioned at the start. And so I've been in the cannabis space now for about 7 years. Got into it, bringing out a product that's now the leading product in the biostimulant space, with a brand called Mammoth, for those that are cultivators on the phone and familiar with the Mammoth brand of biological products and cultivation. And as I look for what I was going to do next, it was really sort of, again, thinking about where the market's going, where's the puck going to, where's the competitive advantage, what does technology do? And Greenway is really answering a question that really every consumer asks for the first time, which is what do I take and how do I take it? How do I dose? And it crosses over both recreational, adult use, medical, for every first time consumer, and for those that are, that are connoisseurs, that are very experienced in trying to dial it in even better. It helps to answer that question too. And as we think about personalized medicine and where we're going with personalized medicine and the data around that, Greenway's at the forefront of that technology. And so this is sort of a key piece of how I think about that. And also the team that I have around the table of leading geneticists and people within the industry, it hit all the marks that I was focused on in terms of team technology, market differentiation, where the puck's going to, competitive advantages, et cetera. And so I'm dedicating my time here.
Great. Now, gentlemen, we have about an extra 2-3 minutes to play with. And both of you, once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. But let's end on a high note here on this panel discussion, because you guys are both a wealth of knowledge. And Jeff, I'm gonna have you go first. What is the last piece of advice you would tell yourself 10 years ago, which you knew, or maybe 20 years ago? What's a piece of advice you would give our audience, to the younger version of you?
Focus. I mean, it's easy to be distracted. It's easy and proud to multitask. An addiction is workaholism. Every other addiction is bad. Alcohol, cannabis, sex, all that stuff is negative. Work addiction, that's a positive.
Yes.
Not really. It's too open for abuse, even self-abuse. I would say know when you got to get out. And write it down or do a video of it. Find a way to hold yourself accountable, etc. I know I've gone beyond that more than I'd like, But this is about to happen. But look what you wrote. Look what you said. Look what you promised. To your loved ones, the people who respect you. If you lied to them, you might be able to lie to yourself, but definitely not to investors and others. So I would say, at least understand that what your resources are and where your end is, where you can't afford to put in any more sunk costs.
And Jeff, you make a great point. Something we tell all our clients here at UCS Advisors is failure to plan is plan to fail. And sometimes you got to work backwards. What's your exit strategy? What's your end game? And once you figure out your end game, you can always work backwards from there. And you can always kind of find that nice balance that way too. Greg, same question to you. What are your parting words to our audience? What's something you could have told yourself 10 or 20 years ago that you know now? We'd love to hear what you have to say.
For sure. I agree. Focus is definitely a core piece of that. And around that, I would say I would use the word discipline. I'm sure, for those that, the venture capital guys, the people managing family office money, et cetera, personal, individual investors on the phone, discipline is critical, right? And set your investment thesis. And it's very easy to get emotionally tied to something that looks sexy and looks great, and get enamored with a team that knows how to pitch it really well, but there's not a lot of meat on the bone, right? So I think that discipline is really, really critical in terms of whatever your individual investment thesis is, and don't stray from it. And I think that's really, really important.
David, one last thing.
Yep.
I take it so seriously that when I ask for, or let's say when I take dollars from an investor, I don't view them as, they're a friend or they're a relative or whatnot. That's just the beginning of a very important commitment. I rather lose my own money than lose my investors' money.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, and I'm happy you brought that up. And one thing that if I were to share something with the audience is when it's January right now, so make sure you have your year-long goals. Then make sure you also have your first quarter goals, and then make sure you have your monthly goals. Break it down. One of the biggest things, especially when we talk to people taking on a project that might be 18, 24, 36 months long, is they're already thinking about what they got to do for month 35 or 36. And sometimes you just got to break it down. People joke around at my home office. I keep 3 different whiteboards. One whiteboard for the year-long goals, one whiteboard just for the quarterly goals, and one whiteboard just for the goals for the month. It's a nice way to keep focus and to stay focused. So with that being said, Jeff, thank you so much for being here. Greg, thank you. Everyone, if you have any questions for either one of these people, make sure you reach out to them. Connect with them on LinkedIn. We cannot stress that enough. Make sure you connect with people on LinkedIn. You got to remember too, statistically speaking, through Success Magazine, an estimated almost 70% of business is being done now through LinkedIn. Almost 70%. Think about that for a second. So, gentlemen, I appreciate that. We're going to move on to our next panel discussion. Our next panel discussion is entitled Investing in Hemp Opportunities. And with that being said, our moderator for our panel of Investing in Hemp Opportunities is Stephen Cutter, who's the CEO of Hemp for Future. He'll be joining us today on this panel with Christopher Freeman, who's the CEO of Basic Human Needs, David Abaskis, I apologize if I mispronounced the last name, who's the CEO of Titan Bioplastics, as well as Miriam Davidacic, and I apologize if I mispronounced the last name, who's the CEO of Rashim Ventures. Now, before we begin, Stephen Cutter will be introducing the panelists and allow them to talk. But let me tell you a little background about Stephen Cutter, the CEO of Hemp for Future. He is a lifelong entrepreneur. Stephen has a passion for sustainable solutions and is using hemp as a platform to create regenerative economics for sustainable developments. Stephen has started and operated multiple businesses and has a niche in connecting leaders and pioneers in many different sectors. Stephen has traveled the world all over the last several years with a mission to find change makers and sustainable solutions that will help out not only the United States, but also the world economy. Stephen has attended the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. He's attended the Global Climate Summit in San Francisco, as well as the UN General Assembly in search of these type of solutions that I just mentioned. Hemp for Future is a public benefit corporation, and its goal is to improve the health of the land, provide abundance to the people, and innovate new products in this incredible developing hemp industry. Hemp for the Future has put together a team of hemp experts to help guide communities with the proper education, finance, insurance, equipment, tools, legal assistance, processing and logistics, and resources. They do all that to help plant, cultivate, and process hemp in the cooperative fashion. Stephen Cutter, I welcome you to the stage.
Cheers. Thanks for that intro, David. And yeah, it's been, I'll tell a little bit about my story and what I've been building, like you mentioned, the framework on how to scale the industrial hemp industry. It's been illegal to grow the plant for 90 years, and there's no manufacturing, there's no processes, there's no SOPs. And so we're going to be talking today on how we can scale the hemp industry as a part of a collective. There's about 30 different industries inside of hemp. And each one has its own ocean. So we've been collecting change makers and pioneers and innovators in all these spaces to help scale the industry that will benefit the planet and the environment first. So a big passion of mine is regenerative practices. And so we're going to be talking today about investment opportunities and vehicles. We'll be talking about a hemp bond, how you can raise a hemp sustainable development goal bond, which hasn't been done yet. There'll be blockchain options that'll be similar as the bond to invest in these collectives. And then we have Christopher Freeman that will be talking about opportunity zones. and how we can create basically majority of the basic human need products in regional development to help improve the economy, the ecology, and the health of the people. And then we'll talk with Miriam on hemp super funds and how we create different measurements and risk management tracking to make sure that we are impactful with our investments, not just have a good return. And then we have David Abacassis, who's one of the founders of Titan Bioplastics, and he's big in the material science, bioplastics, nanotechnology, and incubators. So we'll go ahead and start off with Chris. Chris and I got connected probably about 6 months ago, and when they told me about their opportunity zone plans, and I said, this is perfect for hemp. We should work together and help innovate and then bring these hemp opportunity zones online. So with that being said, Chris, why don't you go ahead and give a little bit of a background on yourself, and then we'll dive into some questions on how the opportunity zone fund functions.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and I love being around this type of energy that's creating sustainability for the future. My background is a blessed given talent to be able to draw and visualize and create. I was born with that. I took that creativity and got my degree from Savannah College of Art and Design in illustration and design. And through illustration and design, after I graduated, went full force into the market as an entrepreneur and as a business person, getting into a wide variety of markets and developing products, marketing, manufacturing, creative design for other companies. At the same time, developing a lot of my own products. Been in that business for about 20, 25 years, backed into national, international trade, and got to the point where my career and my creative background balled that all up in a ball, and end up creating BHN, Basic Human Needs Company, which the foundation is from trade and international trade, and had a real good focus on commodities, design, and creativity to create new products for the future, create new products for the world.
Great. And when we met, I thought hemp would fit perfect into the opportunity zones and what you guys have been building. And when you can grow the plant locally and you can process and manufacture it, you really can create a prototype for circular economic principles. So let's go over a couple of questions here. So I'm sure a lot of the audience is familiar with opportunity zone funds. And I don't think a lot of people, I don't know if anyone's really doing a hemp opportunity zone. So let's go over a little bit of kind of what the opportunity zone fund is asking for and how some of that functions. So I know we're looking to raise around 30 million to do the first opportunity zone fund around this regional development with hemp. And the plan is to have this be kind of a template and you could do in new regions. So talk a little bit about how the funds will be deployed in the opportunity zones around the hemp and manufacturing components.
Well, let me back up and say one thing, Steve, and then I'll come back up to that. Let me explain what BHN is and why we're going into the opportunity zones and how this kind of makes sense to everybody. Again, BHN, Basic Human Needs, we're a design company, but our focus is on building materials, non-perishable foods, clothing, hemp, paper products, medical and hygiene products. And that's our focus. Our whole platform is built around that particular focus. And how I connected with Stephen is we want to invest and scale those products into a mainstream retail. We're a brand company, our own brand company, creating new retails for a hybrid retail for the market, brick and mortar and global e-commerce. So as a design company, we're the bridge for raw new hemp materials, creating new markets with these new fibers, anything that you can develop. Our company create, redesign these products, find this market for it, and through our platform, and from that, how we taking that whole concept of basic human needs, hybrid retail, manufacturing, stocking, warehousing, all glued together with blockchain technology. So we're taking that ball of energy and carrying it to opportunity zones. If you don't know what opportunity zones, it's pretty much an economic desert. There's nothing there but people, unfortunately. And so what we want to do is we want to bring the water. We want to be the oasis for that. And we want to take the name off of opportunity zones and turn it back into America. They bordered it and gave it a name. We got to erase that, or it's going to continue to grow and grow. So instead of carrying basic human needs to the actual retail market, that's a perfect market for us because we have the economic platform of everything that we need. Not everything they need, but we know we have the basics for that. So, so to take that, we're creating, me and Steve have a joint partnership between here and Puerto Rico to create a fund to go in and put our economic plan into these opportunity zones. There's over 8,000 opportunity zones across America, which is sad. That's very sad. But what we're trying to do is not just put our economic plan just in one place. We're trying to put the BHN economic plan across the United States simultaneously and Puerto Rico at the same time. So we're going in for a big sustainable push to make this change. We have education and everything.
Love it. Yeah, and everything that we talk about and how hemp can play a role, it really can create a whole circular economy. And that being said, we'll move on to Miriam. I sometimes introduce Miriam as Miss Regenerative and Captain Benefit Corp. So she's all about tracking the impacts and benefiting the people and the planet. And she's creating innovative new tools on how to invest into hemp. And she's in Serbia, and we actually got connected through a blockchain colleague with a Regen Network who tracks the impact around regenerative agriculture. Miriam, can you please give a little background, and then we'll go into some Russia.
Absolutely. So I'm Miriam Davidovich, Miriam Rachel Shields Davidovich, long name, but that's us Israelis for you. So I'm actually indigenous to Israel. So my family is from Israel, but we ended up here in Serbia historically. And in Portugal and, all over the world. And I think my impact investing trajectory was actually solidified because I went home first. So Rushem Ventures is headquartered in Israel, and we manage a portfolio of assets, including direct investments in technology, blockchain, and impact verification, impact measurement and management software, as well as a portfolio of real assets, so real estate and agriculture and regenerative agricultural products, as well as food processing and retail. And that really was just, the process of getting there was really ultimately about figuring out myself and then mirroring that across my investment portfolio, so that the way I see what matters to me, what my values are, what I'm willing to do to protect those values, that ended up being my way of looking at how I pick and choose investments and how I decide which investments are going to be successful and which ones aren't. Because when we get into the process of due diligence, or we get into the process of meeting investor expectations, we really have to be very self-aware, right? So the entrepreneur and the investor really needs to understand who they are, why they do what they do, how it makes money, have their numbers gone through again and again and again for as long as it takes for this to actually be able to become a viable business. Because if we talk about regeneration, right, the regenerative economy, we talk about creating vitality, right? So vitality across the economic, social, and environmental space. And if one of those pieces is missing, then we are not regenerating, right? So we need to really be very self-aware about the way that we do business as well, the way we develop our businesses, the way we communicate about those businesses, what our value proposition is. And that's ultimately the foundation of Rushem, is really just self-awareness, empowering our team so that they can actually lead in their own lives, so that they can establish for themselves who they want to be and where, and then they're more efficient at leading across the global network. And that's how we ended up scaling to 5, 6, 7 different countries. because we empowered the individual to make their own decisions. And that's ultimately what investors need to do too, is actually capacity build, work with their investees, empower them, show them, give them tools and tell them, this is what you need to do. Make up your mind, figure out exactly what you want, go out there and do it and be, the best you, not the best company, the best you. Show what makes you unique and make money doing that. So there's a little bit of an intro with a little bit of due diligence thrown in, and go for it. There's some questions at me.
Well, great. No, and I love everything you're doing. And one of the things really cool about the hemp space and the regenerative space is it's really about the power of the collective. Once you get to regenerative economics and regenerative practices, you really see people wanting to do what's best for the planet. And, hemp is one of the best plants for that. And I think if it's all working together, really can scale this faster. So I really appreciate all your work and just to know you. So I guess I'd like to talk about a little bit about the fund and kind of what your focuses are going to be with the fund. I know regenerative is a part of it and impact measurements, but what do you guys look for as far as companies and things to invest into, and what are some of the criteria?
Absolutely. So let me just start out by, as much as I believe in the power of the collective to make change in the world and make the world a better place, I do not necessarily believe in the power of the collective to make money. So I do believe in individual rights, data privacy, proper healthy boundaries between businesses as well, right? Because when we set up contracts and we set up our business relationships, we have to prepare for an exit, right? And everybody knows that, but it's almost like just being very self-aware to prepare for your divorce before you get married. Right, potentially to set up those proper boundaries. And how does that relate to an investment fund? So we are launching a fund of funds at Roshem for the purpose of investing across 3 different parallels: impact technology, innovation and infrastructure, and regenerative organic agriculture. And then we have those 3 that then trickle down, and we then create separate investment vehicles, separate smaller funds with separate individual areas of focus. And one of them includes hemp, includes medical cannabis, but it's primarily technology driven, because we're not only trading product anymore, we're actually trading data, right? We're trading information, protected, verified, secured information about where the product came from, how it was, whether it met regulatory requirements, right? And how that process actually happened, right? And what types of products were used as that hemp was being grown. If they claim to be organic, are they really organic? Where's their certificate? If I have to wait 2 weeks to see a member's certificate and I'm trying to trade hemp, that slows down my business. If I have to wait to go through a due diligence process in 6 months, that slows down my ability to deploy capital quicker and more efficiently. So what are we actually doing? What problem are we solving? We are integrating impact data with financial performance, and we're scaling that across a range of industries and looking for investees that are willing to take on that challenge of digitizing their data in order to increase their efficiency, in order to boost their competitive strategy. Because ultimately, when we talk about sustainability, we need to also think about financial sustainability, but we also don't want to keep things the same, because sustainability can mean keeping things the same as well. We're regenerating something that hasn't worked. Okay, so we're changing something about something that doesn't work. Well, why are we still focusing on the problem? What's the solution? What are we actually doing? If we talk about creating an impact, we've got to minimize the negative, increase the positive impact. Okay, great. That's a strategy. It's a portfolio management strategy. That's what it is. So we're investing strategically to manage our portfolios more effectively. But what are we doing? So it's super important for companies to get as clear and specific as possible on what benefit are they creating? Who are you doing this good for? Whose lives are you changing? And can you get that information from them? Can they verify it? Or is it just going to be you filing an impact report? Is it just going to be you publishing your own internal impact report? Where did the information come from? Is it stakeholder verified? Did it actually happen? Right? So we really just need to increase our level of consciousness and just understand that if we're making claims about making the world a better place for whom? How? What kinds of specific benefits are we creating? And then how does that make money? Right? And then how can we prove it faster, more efficiently, to create competitive advantage, to be aligned with market needs, not to just be driven by our own products and our own solutions, because we might think we're solving a problem, but who are we solving a problem for? How many people can agree that we're solving that problem for them, right? And so ultimately, that's what we're investing for, is solving problems, right?
Awesome.
And we've got to get very clear on what exactly are we solving.
And I think one of the things you guys are also solving too is you're investing into innovation, the impact and regenerative agriculture, but you're also developing a supply, an ecosystem, a market exchange for hemp products. So a lot of companies don't focus on the sales; they focus on creating the company. So I really like how you guys are creating a platform as well for hemp products to be able to sell and be traded and have to be impact verified. So that's a big component that I think everyone in the CBD space could take a page from over the last couple of years. So I really like everything you put together, and it's kind of a full shop for hemp companies to come in and really benefit. And then I'll move on to David because we only have about 7 minutes left here. And the innovation part is a lot of where I like to spend my time and focus. And it almost seems endless of what hemp can do and benefit the planet. And this is my good friend, David Abacassis. And he's probably one of the top thinking green scientists in the world in bioplastics, nanotechnology, energy, waste energy, you name it. And David, please give yourself a quick introduction on some of your work.
I just want to emphasize that while I'm the lead entrepreneur in most of the businesses with co-partners, I have very competent business executives that I work with. I'm always the technical director for the company. So the CEO for Titan Bioplastics, which is ranked #1 in the world by Smartest Magazine for packaging solutions, is Tanya Hart. She's my partner and helps run the business portion of that. We have an input company for what I'm about to talk to you about for the opportunity zones. That's Green Growers Technology Alliance. My partner, Avi Cooper, is CEO of that company. The company we have today, for the time being, I've got a business attorney that's working with us, that's the CEO, his name is Derek Campbell. Relative to what we're talking about, what I really want to discuss today, we have something that targets opportunity zones that we're looking for a raise. We found the only way outside of packing it into cement to get value from coal fly ash using an accelerated auxin leaching enhanced phytoremediation. We have a site now in Kentucky. We're looking for demonstration funding. All the technologies are patented, proven. It's a science convergence of technologies that we had. We're able to use the auxin that I developed for the Green Growers Technology Alliance, which is right now probably the most powerful auxin discovered for overall effects on the plant physiology and the plant anatomy. It doesn't selectively just affect the roots or the upper portions, it does all. It's a new scientific discovery. We've been using that in green growers in the cannabis space, and we were able to add it into the technologies that allowed us to really get full value out of converting coal fly ash, which right now is an airborne pollution. It typically is in opportunity zones because the populations there are, let's say, not as vocal about their protection. They're usually poor neighborhoods. So these sites, they're all over the United States. They've got all these OSHA carcinogens, and the only solution that they found so far is to call it clean cone and pretend it's not a problem and put it in concrete. So what we've done is we've got a convergence of technologies, which are first biochemical and chemical bleaching, which is proprietary. And then we follow up with an auxin amplified phytoremediation. Then we convert that into extracting all the rare earth metals from the coal fly ash through both the biochemical and phytoremediation processes. And the bottom line is we're taking a $1 billion liability from a given site. We're able to grow about 1,000 plants per acre is the estimated convergence. And again, we've been in the cannabis space supporting cannabis growers, so we have a lot of internal knowledge about that process. And the bottom line for the investors coming into this, we're doing 1,000 plants per acre. We're shooting for high CBD plants. We're coming out to about 75 plants, $75 per plant of CBD, about $35 in metal yields, and about 9,513 in graphene oxide, which is going to be one of the primary products. And then we've got about $40 a ton for the coal fly ash. So the total yield per acre is about $9,623 of net profit. And we're able to use that and expand it to sites that are usually around 100 to 150 acres and create value. So in a way, we've discovered the next fracking, but it's a sustainable model. It depollutes a monopoly problem right now, uses a convergence of technology, and uses hemp, graphene oxide, and all the ability to extract metals and our expertise to convert it to high value. And there are 3,650 of these sites in the US right now with no real solution in addressing them prior to our technology.
Well, great. Yeah. And just a note to everyone, David studied bioremediation under one of the grandfathers of bioremediation for several years as well. So with the auxin and with hemp and with taking a waste product, which is fly ash, converting it into one of the most high value product additives is a lot of where I think hemp has a lot of benefits.
I just want to stress too that we'll be creating local economies from what was a $1 billion liability. So we'll be having everything from drivers right up to hiring every scientist from the local schools and universities. So we are, in fact, go ahead.
I want to talk to a minute about how hemp can play a role as not just an agricultural commodity, but also as a technology platform for community development.
So there was a very significant piece of work done at the University of Arkansas about a month ago. I think it deserves a Nobel Prize. This guy found a way to actually capture local Brownian motion, convert it to electricity. That means there's going to be a huge draw on moving forward graphene and graphene oxide products for electrical applications. But with this new innovation and with supercapacitors, they're sort of the future of electrifying the economy. And I've done quite a bit of graduate work in sustainability around the topic. So we understand the value of graphene oxide as an input. We're actually going to be putting together what looks like probably one of the larger graphene oxide production efforts, at least domestically here in the United States. And so it'll be one of the primary off-put. But at the same time, we're getting all the metals and non-metals out of the fly ash, making it a safe inert media. And at the same time, we're also using hemp CBD for its normal, traditional, medicinal, and other properties. We're also going to be able to take off-put product and do things like hemp concrete. But Titan Bioplastics has existing markets for a lot of the plastics and sustainable materials. This is a commercializing company. So we'll be able to take off-put products that we've got from this called fly ash and plug them directly into existing commercial channels that we're developing now. So rather than just being a concept startup, we've actually have commercializable products that we can make money right out of the gates, hopefully this year.
Great. And yeah, I think one of my favorite things that you talk about, David, is how hemp can be an innovation platform for community development.
Correct. So there's an incubator concept.
And then we'll have to wrap up.
I spent about 10 years in an incubator. I had a polymer consulting service that would have never survived if I hadn't been in the incubator. I learned so much about setting them up. I came up with the first internship program at Farmingdale State University here in New York for the incubator. But in addition to that, I was then hired by the Hispanic Chamber of Long Island to set up an incubator. And so I designed systems ranging from how we recruited people to virtual currency inside the incubator. And I realized what a economic viable generator an incubator was for high-tech businesses, because it removes so much of the risk and really fosters collaboration and high economic efficiency. So I'd worked with Stephen to come up with a model for a sort of hemp design incubator that would use it as a technology platform, the same way we use petroleum and other types of minerals and non-minerals as technology platforms to drive. Hemp is a sustainable material, it's a plant material, but it can come into places where rare earth metals and electronics use conductive materials. It's got some very unique properties, and that means you've got all steps of a value chain. You've got the agricultural portion, you've got the chemical processing, the validation, the technical. So you're creating jobs and you're creating job training on site to foster the local companies like this fly ash effort. And you're creating training, high quality training at all levels.
And while you can help improve the environment
that's right. You're getting rid of an environmental liability that right now is unsolvable. You're driving education in the technical realm locally as part of the incubator system. So you're creating sustainable education. You're elevating the GDP of the local communities tremendously. And you're having to incorporate both the environmental component, the economic component, the marketing, the educational, and you have to converge all that. But if you look at it as a whole picture, it's a sustainability powerhouse. Because we're replacing petroleum, which is in the gutter, with positive cash flow from a $1 billion liability.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you, David. This panel's wrapping up, and I think we see a plant-based future for the world, and I'm very grateful to have you all here today. And thanks, Brad and Investor Hot Seat for having us.
Thank you.
So, Stephen, thank you so much for moderating that. Everyone who was just on that panel, as you can tell, everyone there is a wealth of knowledge. And if you hear me say this again and again, because it's the truth of the matter, the one thing is that this event brings so many unique individuals from all around the United States and all around the world into one place. And just hearing David speak just now it's mind-blowing. And it's someone where make sure you connect with him on LinkedIn. Make sure you ask other questions that you have, and ask all the panelists we have questions as well too. Stephen Cutter, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for moderating this. Really do appreciate it. Make sure the participants connect, and Stephen, make sure you hang out afterwards for the Zoom networking event, because it's a great way to meet some more people. So I already know there's some questions that are just for you as well too. So with that being said, we're now going to move forward onto our third panel. And our third panel is called Plant-Based Medicine, a Global Investing Opportunity. The moderator of that is John Niemanek. And John will be introducing our two panelists today, who are also both have doctorate degrees as well too. I am personally honored and privileged because John is someone I look up to, who I learn something new from every single time he does something. John is a partner of Green Coast Capital International. Green Coast is an international investor providing flexible, innovative financing to small cap and micro cap marketplace in a variety of sectors. John might actually be in Colombia right now. I don't know. I'll let him talk about that himself. But let's talk about John a little bit more. John's a serial entrepreneur, but he's also an investor. He's a co-founder, chairman, and CEO. He's exited not one, not two, but three companies, very successful internet startups. In 2006, he took Hostopia, raised $29.2 million for it, then sold it to Deluxe Communications for $129 million. Think about that. He raised $30 million, sold it for $124 million. That's a pretty good turnaround. Great job, John. He also sold another company to the Steinberg Group for $45 million in the latter part of 1999. His current company, Tucos, had a current market cap of over $600 million. He also took Internet Direct and merged it with another company called Look Communications in 1999. And guess what? That was deemed at over $500 million with a B. Over $500 million. I'll tell everyone right now, and I'm going off script on purpose, is that most people can get their company to a $75 or $100 million valuation. But once you hit over $500 million, that's a lot. That's difficult. It's not easy to do. And this guy has done it. So once again, make sure you pay attention to John. John's current interest, though, is about medical cannabis, cultivation, hemp, CBD startups with a focus on Colombia. He's married to Sandra Carrillo, who's a physician and also a leading expert in cannabis for clinical applications. And she was also appointed the clinical professor in charge of scientific program for cannabis research and education at the University of Panama. John manages Panamanian and Colombian-based businesses. He's a former member of EO Panama and has extensive contacts within Panama. He's also a former member of EO Toronto, as well as YPO Toronto. He is actively seeking high return opportunities to invest in, as well as to serve as a director for high quality cannabis-oriented firms. So I tell people, if you're looking for a highly experienced operator, a dynamic leader who understands the growth cycles of startups and how to develop exit strategies, make sure you contact John. And if you know some John's background and stuff in America, South America, Canada, he's a wealth of knowledge. John, I'm going to hand it off to you to let you talk about who we have as panelists and to get this panel started.
David, thank you. That was an amazing introduction. I really appreciate that. Sometimes when I look back over the years and realize that some of the things that I did, it was because we had a team. There's no I in team. I worked with an absolutely outstanding group of entrepreneurs, executives, friends. I mean, this is critical. And this is the emphasis I always put on when I'm looking at investments. So I'm going to proceed now by chatting about Nova Plantum, which is actually Latin for new plant. And I'm going to introduce Dr. Sudhir Athni please, gentlemen, forgive me if I butchered your names, I try, and Dr. Prahlad Parahuli of Nova Plantum. Gentlemen, welcome to the Investor Hot Seat.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
I mean, I read through your resumes online, and for me to try to summarize your resumes in, say, less than 30 seconds would be like trying to summarize War and Peace by calling it a book about Russia. I mean, gentlemen, you have absolutely outstanding bios. So what I'm going to do is ask Dr. Anthony, may I call you Sudhir? May I call you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about Nova Plantum. And then afterwards, I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about yourself, if you wouldn't mind, please. And then ask your other partners as well. Because honestly, I looked at your bios and I thought to myself, like, wow, if I was ever going to put together a dream team, you guys would be at the core of it. I mean, no kidding. So please proceed.
Sure, sure. And let me answer that by flipping around just a little bit, because I think my history and where I came from will explain how we got Nova Plantum together. So I'm a big city boy. I grew up in New York, actually, and went down to Houston for my education. And down there, I got my environmental engineering degree. So that was my first taste in the environment, the green world, and all that kind of stuff. And then life took me over to medicine, where I got my MD, and then became a neurologist. So right now, I'm a practicing neurologist here in Middle Georgia. And I've always had this interest in plants and trees. And I jokingly tell my friends that I love shooting animals, but not with a gun, but with a camera. So I'm big into photography and the outdoors and stuff. And I've always been amazed how a lot of my patients, almost blindly, they accept some of the medications I prescribe them for their ailments. And a lot of these medications have some toxic effects, and these are serious conditions. And that's where over the years, and just through self-learning and broadening my educational horizons, I realized that there are so many plants out there that can actually do the same, not just the pharma-based chemicals that are produced that we dispense to our patients, but there are so many drugs out there that can do the exact same thing. And that's where, with my partner, Prahlad, and our two other partners, Dr. Nirmal Joshi and Dr. Braz Vaidya, we all have different interests, and we got together about 6-7 years ago and realized that, hey, we can form a company that can achieve this goal of producing products naturally, not just from chemicals. And we all had our individual skill set. And so that's how Nova Plantum was formed. So I'll hand it off to Prahlad and let him explain what his skill set is, what he brought to the table of this company.
Please.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. And thanks, John, for introducing us here. Sudhir and I are from different worlds. So I am originally from India, from the Himalayas. I grew up in a small plantation, medicinal plantation, and before chloroquine was there, the quinine is the mother of chloroquine, and that comes from a plant, cinchona. Cinchona was grown actually in one of the 4 plantations that I grew up in. So I strongly believe in the healing power of herbs, plants. So because that's where I spent my formative years of childhood. And but then as a training, I studied immunology. I'm a PhD in immunology. And right now I do research and teach cancer biology and immunology at Wayne State University, Karmanos Cancer Institute. I'm in Michigan right now. So, and with Dr. Joshi, who is one of our partners, we've been studying different immunomodulatory aspects, anti-cancer, anti-obesity, of different literally hundreds of medicinal plants. We've done research on them. And when doing research, we realized that a lot of these plants, we have off the counter extracts and all those things you can buy. But a lot of times they don't work as good as they are supposed to work. The reason is
the plants actually, where do they bring it from? What kind of chemicals do they have? Although you get plants, it's not necessary that they have the chemicals that they're supposed to have. So that brought us to tissue culture, basically. So if you want to grow plants which have like consistent composition of chemicals in them, you have to have the same genetics, just like hemp or any other thing. So, and the only way to produce them is by tissue culture. You multiply them, and then you have to grow in a specific condition. So that's what we got together, four of us. We have like partners, Dr. Joshi, who is like world-renowned professor in like all kinds of plants. He knows about all kinds of exotic plants in the Himalayas and all over the world. And we have another person who is the only person who doesn't have a doctoral degree. He has a master's degree, but he is the master of tissue culture, basically. And he has done tissue culture business all over the world, in Kathmandu, Trinidad, Tobago, and from here also. So he knows tissue culture from all over the world, and he has done business. And Sudhir, who knows engineering, MBA, and medicine. And me being like, I've studied research, done research on like different aspects of medicinal plants. So we got together and we started this company. So that's our background. And
you mind telling us just a little bit more about your partners? What you said was good, but just maybe amplify it a bit more for another minute or so, if that's okay.
Go ahead, Claude.
Okay. So
Sure.
Dr. Joshi is the anchor, basically. So he's not here. So he brought all the three of us together. So he's also from the Himalayas. He's from the Western Himalayas. I'm from the Eastern Himalayas. So, and he studied in India, but he went to get his PhD in the Eastern Himalayas. That he went to Japan. He was in Philippines studying rice. So he had studied he's a botanist by training, PhD in botany, a plant scientist. He's studied all kinds of medicinal plants. So he knows about medicinal plants, how to tissue culture them, how to grow them, and how to intercrop actually. So that's another advantage of so us. We do consulting also. We actually teach farmers and growers how to mix their plantations, basically, to get maximum advantage, and how to utilize the plants. So, and we also, Dr. Joshi also specializes in some like very fast growing trees, and with the multiple advantages, biomass and everything. So we consult with growers how to get like maximum advantage of those trees. So he's an expertise in all kinds of trees and medicinal plants. And another partner is Bras Vaidya, and he actually, the opposite of what we did is we studied outside, we came here. Bras Vaidya actually got his undergrad from here, so in US. And he got his undergrad and he went back to Kathmandu, Nepal, started a tissue culture company. And he is a master in tissue culture because he used to tissue culture exotic Himalayan plants, including orchid, which is very difficult to tissue culture actually. So, and he used to sell them all over the world. And he did tissue culture in bananas and all kinds of plants. And he went to Trinidad and Tobago, helped them set up like tissue culture companies there. And he came back here, got his master's again. And then he started we started a company. We met when he was doing his master's here in US. So we got him into our fold. So we built this team like that, tissue culture company basically. So we have the know-how of doing tissue culture for more than 200 plants, including hemp, orchids, and trees, and multiple medicinal plants.
As I said, all of you have absolutely outstanding backgrounds. And one of the things I noticed about your company is that even though you positioned yourself as providing tissue culture, and I think we should explain a little bit more why tissue culture is perhaps superior to cloning or to popping seeds. I mean, seeds are easy. You know, a couple of years ago, we bought some seeds from someone we will not name, but a very well-known seed producer. It was supposed to be AK-47. We got 12 seeds. We popped the seeds, and what was it? 4 of them exhibited a sativa-like characteristics. 4 of them reminded us of indica. I had the broad leaves, and then 4 of them were like hybrids. And needless to say, from a commercial operations perspective, you just cannot have that kind of variability. You know, you need to have consistency. So a lot of people have turned to clones. However, I personally believe tissue culture is superior, but as experts, perhaps you could explain to the audience why tissue culture is better. And let's emphasize that what you offer is technology. You're not limited to cannabis by any means. I mean, there isn't literally any plant that you can't take your technological platform, as I understand it, and apply it. So for me, that's particularly interesting because as an investor, looking at charts of commodities, in particular, I was looking at the DBA Investec Index. It's a ETF. And in the last 10 years, it's been going down. It's primarily agricultural commodities. But in the last 10 years, it's been declining, but now it's popping up, which is telling me that we're going into an agricultural boom in terms of prices for the cost of food and other agricultural goods. And what you're doing is going to be critical, in my opinion, to help keeping us fed, to feeding the planet. So please, forgive me if I'm just going on and on in my soapbox here, but tell us, favor us please with a response. Tell us why tissue culture over cloning, for example.
Sure. Let me jump in on this one. So normally, any plant that most folks know about, non-scientific, you take a seed, you put it down in the ground, and you watch the plant grow. And then to multiply it, you basically take the seeds those plants produce, and you plant more plants from those seeds. The problem there is a fewfold. One, mutations occur. So every generation of these plants, there's a slight change in the genetic code. And when you take those seeds and replant it, now the genetic code is slightly different than the original mother plant. Then another issue with that is the sun and the rain and cross-pollination with other plants that are similar in the local area. So now you bastardize that plant generation after generation. And you need to plant those out in the field. You need acres and acres and acres to multiply thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of plants. Tissue culture is completely in the lab. In a facility that's maybe 5,000 square feet, we could multiply millions in a very small area. And the technology basically involves taking one plant, and then in the lab, we genetically multiply it. We don't genetically modify it, we genetically multiply it. So the original mother plant is now multiplied millions of times over. And in a small facility, and we can stack them up rows on top of rows. And so from a world hunger standpoint, sure, we can multiply any plant, any food that people want to eat, multiply it in mass quantities. Now, once it's multiplied, that doesn't mean it's ready to eat, obviously, if it's a food, or doesn't mean it's ready to harvest and make it into cannabis. Now these are seedlings, little plantlets that can then be taken to the field and planted. But you can be rest assured that every one of those plants that you planted has the exact same genetic code as the original mother plant. So from a cannabis standpoint, where this becomes crazy important, especially as cannabis and hemp and in the future marijuana becomes legalized, is the flavor and the variety. So one example I give to my patients and to my colleagues is, there's only one species of humans, right? There's the genus species, and that's Homo sapiens. Every one of us is a Homo sapien. It's one species. With cannabis, there are 3 species, but like humans, we have billions of varieties. I look totally different than everyone else on the screen and everyone else in the world because I'm one variety. Same with cannabis, you have thousands and thousands of varieties. And each variety of cannabis may have a slightly different flavor when it's used recreationally, but will also have a slightly different content in terms of its chemicals, the phytochemicals, the plant chemicals, which is important for medicinal plant usage. So it's critical that once we find a given plant, a given cannabis that has a given phytochemical calibration that we multiply genetically. And the only way that can be done genetically multiplication is through tissue culture. Is that anything to add, Prahlad, on that front?
That's an excellent explanation. Now, I'm going to need to wrap this up soon, but I did want to say that, first of all, we've had an amazing turnout of people, by the way, and it just shows that what Brad is doing here is great. What I would like you to do is this. What message would you like to give to the audience in terms of what your opportunity is and how they can reach out to you? Because I personally really like what you're doing. I mean, I think it's astounding, but I'm sure there's people in this audience right now that are wondering more about what it is that you offer. If not, in particular, what I really liked was what you're doing on the cannabis side. But again, I want to emphasize it's a technology platform. I describe your company as being the blockchain or distributed ledger technology, right? And cannabis is simply an application like a Bitcoin, for example. So that's how I see it. So I will now quiet up and ask you to summarize, please. And
Sure.
whatever
Prahlad,
message you would like to leave.
Yeah. Prahlad, do you want to start?
So we have already formed a group. We are already consulting. And right now, when we are talking to different groups in like all over the world, actually, who wants to buy different kinds of plants, tissue culture. The tree especially, it's people are interested in one kind of tree, and we are getting orders, so we are having to outsource them, so which we do not want to. So that's why we purchased the land. We've already like 120 acres of land in the middle Georgia, here in US, the Georgia in US, and where we are ready to start. But we want to start with a tissue culture lab, and we want to build a big greenhouse where we can grow different kinds of medicinal plants there, because they have to grow in a consistent condition. So, and in the lab, we can produce any kind of plant. So we are ready to roll. We have a land. We need a runway. So we are like to fly. We want to fly big. And we need a runway. We are seeking funding to build a runway to that, which is our lab, tissue culture lab. So,
and I want to add that we are also investors in our own company. All four of us are investor owners of the company. And like Prahlad said, our land is in central Georgia, and we're right. And we bought that land in a place that's strategic to transport. We're 3 miles away from an airport, 75 miles from an international airport, 3 miles from an interstate highway, 15 miles from the railroad system, and 100 miles from the seaway, Savannah Airport, the port. And so we can transport to anywhere in the world. And with tissue culture, we're not limited to the US, because we don't do tissue culture in soil. We do it in media, and which means we can transport anywhere in the world. We currently have active accounts in Morocco, in Dublin, in India, and we're trying to establish some accounts in Brazil, as well as Chile. So we're an active business, a money generating business, and we're trying to grow to the next level. And that's what we're trying to see.
Excellent, excellent, gentlemen. You've done an absolutely outstanding job. I'm going to ask you in the comments, in the chat, just to leave your contact information for anybody who wants to reach out to you. And I see that I'm hitting the time limit here, so I'm going to be handing off to my wonderful friend, Dr. Dave. I didn't realize he had a second doctorate. I mean, my gosh, just talking with him, I feel my IQ going, great,
Appreciate it.
I'm truly humble. So, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you,
John. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right, everyone. You know what? Once again, pay attention to the questions in the discussion. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A, put them in the chat. Also, a few people sent me a private message. A friendly reminder is when you post anything in the chat room, make sure you click all panelists and all attendees. Once again, make sure you post your questions or your comments. You clicked all panelists and attendees. John, thank you so much. To the two doctors, thank you. Once again, you'll hear me say this. Everyone that's been presenting so far, that's been a panelist, has been a wealth of knowledge. These are people, if you're getting into the industry, you want to pick their brains. You want to talk to them. Some people don't like to use the term industry leaders, but these people are leaders in their own right and in their own way on how they're helping companies grow. whether it's here in the US or it's done internationally. I cannot stress that enough. So with that being said, we're going to now move on to our fourth panel now. And that panel is called Maximizing Celebrity Partnerships. And personally speaking, as someone who is actually taking money from Tupac Shakur's former manager, from some of Wu-Tang Clan's associates as well too, someone who's actually had celebrities hook us up with their managers or their lawyers or someone within their team who've actually invested in some of our own projects. I'm very excited for this next guest and for this next host. So our moderator is Joseph Chicas, founder of Cannabis Association. Cannabis Venture Partners. My apologies. And he'll be joining with, the panel today with Cletus Mack, of CEO of Cannabis Venture Partners as well too. Now, Joseph Chicas is a proven cannabis strategist that guides emerging cannabis companies through licensing, real estate acquisition, and growth strategies. He is currently the founder and CEO of Cannabis Venture Partners and heads up strategic relations for the Leaves of Legend cannabis brand. Once again, that's Leaves of Legend cannabis brand. He's also part owner in multiple cannabis licenses in California, from delivery to cultivation to retail. Joseph is also a business strategist for Nugal Media, where he publishes articles and content to support cannabis entrepreneurs. Way to go, Joseph. That's something new I learned about you today. He also once served as executive director for the Cannabis Advising Partners at a point when it was one of the top cannabis advising firms in California. What also makes Joseph extremely unique is he's also a former policy professor for the University of Southern California. We taught government relations and policy analysts, which are essential tools to excel in this cannabis regulatory landscape, whether you're in California or anywhere in the US. Earlier in his career, Joseph served as an advisor to Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti on economic development issues, specifically Veterans Affairs and small business. He attained his bachelor's from UCLA and his master's degree from University of Southern California. Joseph, thank you for being here today. I really do appreciate it. And I'll let you take it from here.
All right, awesome. Hello, everybody. Really excited to join everyone. Hopefully you're all doing well. I know this is a difficult time for all of us, but the fact that we could come together and really huddle to provide some value and information with each other and exchange experiences and all that can make our access to the industry a little better, a little more seamless. It's just great for this space to be created. So shout out to Brad Turner for inviting us to join today. I did want to call up to our producer, if you can bring up the other Joseph Chicases that are in here. There are going to be other speakers and I'll be introducing them shortly. But essentially today's panel really talks about a topic I'm extremely excited about. It's a topic that up until last year, I really didn't know a lot about, but I've kind of had because of the panelists that you'll hear from today, really a on the ground learning experience that has really elevated my understanding of how do you really maximize a celebrity brand partnership. We all know that celebrities can add immense value to the promotion, expansion, and scaling of your brand, but there's a lot of nuances to doing it right. And the panelists that we've arranged for you today are experts in that arena. And so we're really excited to kind of put this all together for you. So I wanted to start just by briefly introducing the panel. First, we have Money B, who's a Grammy-nominated multi-platinum selling artist, currently of the group Digital Underground. Once you see Money B's background, you'll see all the platinum plaques that he has with Tupac, a once-in-a-generation rap artist, and Money B has definitely gotten multiple plaques with him. So it's truly an honor to have him on our panel. We also have Cletus Mack, also of Digital Underground, who also serves as the CEO of Cannabis Venture Partners. This is one of the greatest deal makers in the business. He really unifies cannabis and the entertainment industry in a way that I've never seen before. And then finally, we have Keith Griffin, who's here next to me and is a great friend of mine, also heavily involved in entertainment and cannabis industry. He's a co-host with Crazy Bone of Bone Thugs and Harmony of a show called Truth Talks. And he's also the co-founder of the Leaves of Legend brand, which again is Crazy Bone's brand from Bone Thugs and Harmony. Keith has really been instrumental in bringing that whole company to scale and even onboarding new celebrities to that brand. So really honored to have him here as well. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go one by one. I have a set of questions that I've teed up for them to bring you all a lot of value in terms of how you might think about arranging these kind of deals, arranging these type of partnerships. And I'm just immensely excited for you all to hear it. So Money B, are you, just want to confirm you're dialed in. Can you hear me all right? Okay, great. So Money B, again, thanks for being here. One quick note about Money B, there is really no one more respected in the entertainment industry than Money B. He's really one phone call away from every major celebrity you can think of. And that's really because of his ability to put these type of partnerships together and really look out for the interest of artists and also brands simultaneously. So Money B, why don't we start with you? You're actually in charge of managing a legacy hip hop brand, being Digital Underground, and it's right. and this being the group that really incubated Tupac and his career, rest in peace. Is just such an immense responsibility that you have managing the Digital Underground and its legacy brands. What do you look for when you're looking at a brand that you're going to partner with to add your celebrity gravitas to? Like, what are the different factors that you look at to make those deals happen?
I think, some of the main things that I look at is compatibility. You can't force a celebrity into your brand if they have nothing in common. And let's take the Digital Underground and the Tupac brand, for example. Now, we all know that Tupac started with Digital Underground, but as he grew, his in stature, but his image kind of strayed away from what Digital Underground was originally. So when we work together, because I work closely with the estate, we always make sure that we're not compromising each other. Meaning, if I'm involving Tupac in some of the products that I use in the Digital Underground merchandise, I make sure with my contact at the estate that is make sure that it's okay. Make sure I know that I won't do anything that Tupac wouldn't be a part of if he was here. At the same time, if there are stipulations, I make sure that I don't compromise the Digital Underground brand, because there's a standard, and we also have a image, or our fan base, our demographic expects certain things from Digital Underground. So we just make sure that we're respecting each other's brand fully, not compromising that brand, as well as not allowing our brand to be compromised.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Is there something else that?
Yeah, for sure. So you've been instrumental in putting together millions of dollars worth of brand and celebrity deal partnerships. What are some red flags that you look for as you're structuring those type of deals?
Red flags for me with any type of business deal, on both sides is consistency. And I say that, I've been in the music industry and in business for, since 1989, right? So that's 30 plus years. And anyone, like Joseph said, anyone that I've done business with or that I associate with, they can tell you that I'm the same as I was 30 years ago. So they expect a consistency with me. How I met them is how I am years later, no matter what the situation, whatever, if there's any type of, if we have to solve a situation, you know what I mean? Like if there's a problem, I remain the same. So what a celebrity looks for is with the company is, if you tell me that you're going to do something, if you tell me it's going to happen at this time, know that, do it. Don't, because procrastination and backtracking, you lose the energy from the celebrity. And that's what you don't want to do, because what we're doing really is we're selling and we're buying engagement, right? And it starts at the very top. So from the very beginning, the company has to engage with the artist or the celebrity so that they believe in the product. The artist, once he believes in the product, he engages with his audience to make them believe. Then in return, you expect, the audience or his fan base or demographic to believe in him, believing in the product enough that they believe in it as well. So, it's a trust thing. My fans trust that what I'm selling them, I really believe in. I have to trust from the person that I'm selling for that they believe in me, and we have to show it within the relationship. And I think it gets lost a lot of time with people who don't deal with artists or people that are creative, and they only deal with business and bottom line. They treat everything as such, as a product, when you have to really cultivate these relationships and kind of cater to these celebrities to an extent, not overboard, but enough to where that the celebrity feels comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely where the match, right, between both entities is really important, because you want the celebrity to go all out for your brand. But if they don't believe in what the brand is, what the product is, and they don't know enough about it, they don't believe in it, then that's really going to show in terms of how they're promoting it, and how much of their digital capital through their social media channels and their fan bases, how much they're going to pump it out, right? And so I think you hit that point directly on the head. Money B, last question for you.
Sure.
Are you working on any other, cannabis or non-cannabis related projects with celebrities that you want to highlight for folks?
Absolutely. So currently, I'm heavily invested, and I'm also on the board of a new streaming network called Vire Streaming Network. And I'm a curator of the content on the platform. So we always look for shows, especially with music celebrities and artists. They have documentaries, they've done movies on their lives, autobiographies, or they have show ideas. We're a place where you can bring us those ideas, either fully produced or we help you produce them. I can give you an example of a few shows that we're working on involve cannabis directly. There's a scripted show that we're currently working on that's 100% totally about the cannabis business in Los Angeles. And just within that, we're promoting cannabis in a way such that there's room for product placement. We're going to have featured celebrities in and out of the series that are involved in the cannabis community that they promote cannabis just in their everyday lives. So you actually would have contact or access to these celebrities in an environment which would suit your brand, because we can do product placement. Through these shows, you can build relationships with the celebrities to further promote your brand. You can do advertising within the show structure, I should say. And we also have a full channel on that platform called Cannavid, which this channel is only about cannabis related content. So, we're really excited about everything that we're working on over at Vire and Cannavid. And I believe that there are a lot of opportunities for people that are in or wanting to get into the cannabis business, especially when it comes to dealing with celebrities.
Awesome. Thank you, maybe. Really great insight. You're an incredible legend in this area. Appreciate you. I'm gonna come back to you at the tail end on the last minute.
Sure.
Because I want one of your fondest memories with Tupac so the audience can hear it. So I'm gonna come back to you.
Okay,
Thanks, Money B.
no worries.
All right, up next we have Mr. Keith Griffin right next to me, one of my best friends, and just an incredible asset on developing these type of partnerships. I've seen him do it. I've seen him pain through it, and come on the other side of things, and just really be successful in this area. Keith, you've been instrumental in building the Leaves of Legends brand, which is already a multi-million-dollar brand that we built during the COVID, and that's been an incredible journey there to build a cannabis brand in the pandemic. But we've been able to get it off the ground and reach some important milestones. And you've really been instrumental in working with Crazy Bone on that, because Crazy Bone, your business partner, your best friend, but you're also, making sure that the brand is reflective of what he wants and what his vision is. How important is it to that you do that on behalf of Crazy Bone, and so that folks can get an insight into, because they at the end of the day, people see Crazy Bone as his brand, but like there's so many people working behind the scenes to get that done, and you're a key member in doing that. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, Joseph too kind too, thanks for the intro, but matching someone up, an investor with a celebrity, I would say it's even more important, or as important as matching yourself up with your soulmate for life. Because when you an investor and an artist, an investor is always looking for a return. That's what you're supposed to do, because that's what investment is. But at the same time, if you have an investor that's looking just too much of a return, and you distinguish the artist's vision, and you just kind of ruin the artist's vision because you're looking about money, money, money. I had to link him up with somebody who was going to respect his dream, respect the vision that he wanted to go in, and just make it all fit exactly right, so that there's no like tearing back and forth about the business side and the creative side. Someone who was able to put capital up into the situation and be an exact silent partner. And it's kind of rare. So we did have to look and find those pieces. And we did, thank God we found those gentlemen that we're working with now to make Crazy Bones Leaves of Legend a very successful cannabis company.
That's great. Now, this is a second development of this cannabis brand, but the first deal that you put together didn't really work out. Yes. Do you want to talk to the audience a little bit about what you learned from the original deal that you had put together?
Yes, just like you're saying, the first investor, he came in and his ideas were more of taking over the company, really not respecting what the wishes that Crazy had, or seeing the vision, or working with a celebrity. Working with a celebrity is different than working with just, if we're starting a cannabis company with just from the ground up, you're going to have to kind of go through the steps that are already blueprinted and guided out. But being with a celebrity, you're able to take it to the different regions and to different countries that you can move faster, is what I'm saying, than having to just go step by step, because they're known in different places. So to be able to use that as your, like one of your weapons, that's the greatest thing. And the first investor was actually working against that. He wanted to start one place and so at one place instead of going to multiple places where the artist is famous at.
Yeah, that's really great insight. Thanks for sharing that. You serve as a liaison between the investors and Crazy Bone. Talk to us about the importance of working with a liaison to an artist or to a celebrity. Like, why is that relationship so important? And how do you maintain it?
It's very important because by being in the music industry, we're able to develop relationships with a lot of these people. So by doing that, we can talk to them and kind of, we have a better relationship than just, it's not company to just artists. We can get on the phone and call people that we've talked to before in the past, and we can be able to work out differences if there are any. We can have language with them that they understand, and we can have them to be able to move on different things that, normally we couldn't.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So much of what Keith and I work on is we solve problems, and nothing gets to the big boss, AKA Crazy Bone, or any of the celebrities that we work with. Nothing gets to their level unless it's absolutely like important. Otherwise, we're taking care of everything with the investors and with the rest of the partners on the supply chain to make sure that everything is great and solid, right? And then if anything reaches a certain level, then it just gets taken up, right? Up the food chain, so to speak.
Yeah.
Last question here. You were actually instrumental in bringing in Cujo from Goody Mob, legendary artist, legendary group. into the Liaison Legends brand.
Yes.
Talk to us about why you thought that was a good fit for not only the brand, but also for him, and how you are envisioning kind of putting that partnership together.
It was a strategic move. We sought after the celebrity. It's not like we just wanted someone who's going to bring fame or a face to a thing. We wanted someone that actually uses the product. Unfortunately, Cujo was in a car accident where he lost his leg. His entire leg was severed. So he uses CBD products, and by me knowing that, we went after him so that we could have him on the roster, so that we can not just use him to normalize cannabis, because that's the state that we're kind of in too. Sometimes cannabis is still frowned upon in different places, but by able to have his story in a heartfelt kind of situation where he already uses cannabis in a CBD form for his pain versus opioids, it really gives us a good look, and it kind of like normalizes it more, or puts it in a place that's not just people on the corner smoking weed. We're doing something for the health or the education of the situation. So we're playing on that kind of thing, and he's a great artist. He's he's real passionate about what he does. So I'm happy to have him aboard. And those are the things that we look for. We're just not trying to set up a celebrity just to campaign something because they're famous. We're trying to have them have a background story about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith. On to you, Cletus. You've been such an integral leader within entertainment and cannabis, and structuring these deals together. What's the most important? What is the importance of a celebrity partner as a brand seeks to do what Keith just said, expand to a new market? Like, how does a celebrity bring value to doing that for a brand?
Thank you, Joseph. I guess you could say that is the difference between like having a secret that's really, really great. You made this thing and everybody in your house knows about it. And everybody think it's really great, but you don't know how to get outside and tell everybody else. When you add a celebrity to it, it gets out. It's like the secret goes to the world. It goes across the country, because they have fans everywhere. It's worldwide fans. So, and now your product is in front of all of these eyes where it traditionally wouldn't be. Especially when you have a celebrity embracing it and saying, hey, look, there's nothing wrong with this. And look, we have medicinal values to this product, and we have facts to prove it. And people are really quick to put out stuff for like alcohol, and those facts haven't really been proven for alcohol. Where it's been proven for cannabis, when it's been proven that CBD helps these children stop having these seizures and stuff like that. So we throwing all of that red tape, we throwing that out in the trash, and we making sure these celebrities are coming on board. When they come on board with these brands, they're able to get their products seen by people that wouldn't normally see it across the world.
Yeah, that piece is so important, right? That the celebrities educated on what the particular benefits are of that product, for sure. Talk to us a little bit about, outside of the obvious like marketing techniques, what are some other ways that a brand can benefit from a celebrity endorsement deal from your perspective?
Well, for one, like Muddy B was speaking on earlier, like I'm writing and producing television shows based on cannabis and based on the life of someone in the business, making comedies, making all different type of cannabis shows that's showing like, hey, this is happening in real life every day. We have shows where we have people who are smoking and walking into their corporate office and, right before they smoke, and just really being really truthful and honest and giving it different eyes that, where it hasn't been exposed to people before, as well as doing things with, like for us, we from the music business. When we start making songs and hymns about a product, it becomes latched on to people's heads and in their memory, and people feel the most comfortable purchasing something that they can relate to, and they remember like, oh yeah, such and such said it was great. Let me try it. It works. And you can tell from several different things that are happening right now, where you see a celebrity attached, and the money goes up high immediately, not just cannabis.
Yeah. I really like the example that you said. Can you About the Corona example with Snoop Dogg. Can you talk a
Yeah,
little bit about that for everybody?
yeah. Because unfortunately for the beer Corona, it ended up having the same name of this virus that's going around and affecting everybody. And in return, it affected their money and their dollars because people were finding it bad. But then you put Snoop Dogg in a commercial rapping about Corona, like saying little rhymes in the Corona commercial. Now it's hip to drink Corona again. And now if you look at their stocks, they're going way back up. And it's very simple. To just adding that celebrity thing that makes people feel comfortable again. It's almost like a family member, like, hey, it's okay, look at me. I'm in front of you. You can see me, I'm doing it, and I'm alive. I'm okay, and it's all right. And that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, and I just want to add that seeing Snoop on those commercials, I'm just like, man, he is living the dream out in that beach. I'm just like, this is what we all need to get back to. So it definitely has that effect. I'm actually craving a Corona after this call. Last question for you, Cleet, real quick. You got a celebrity on board. You got a deal together. How does a brand maximize that to ensure that they're getting the maximum return on investment? Because these type of deals, they might be expensive, right? So how do you get the most from your celebrity?
Well, for one, I find out what my celebrity demographic is. Like, where does he have a stronghold at? You know, and also find out, like, is it Instagram, and how are people engaging with the things that they're posting? And with all of those things, you know, you go and get the math and you get the numbers, and then you build a calculator. And you have to know how to put all of those numbers in a calculator to see how many people, what is the percentage of people buying things and products that he's putting up there already. And then you have to say, all right, now we're going to add this amount of marketing on top of that. And then minus that from the little stigmatism that goes along with it being cannabis, is a calculator that we built that is, you know, we can't talk about that right now, but if you know how to use the calculator, is a way for you to make sure that you're going to get your money back and feel real comfortable about it. Because when you see numbers and facts, it helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that, how the deal is structured, right? Are they just your ambassador? Are they just posting on their social media, or just
no?
Are they just doing it?
And the main thing, and this is the difference about having a celebrity ambassador and having an influencer. So the celebrity that you want to get, you want to make sure that people are seeing them always using the product. They are always promoting the product. They always have the product on them. There's a big difference between having an ambassador and an influencer. And that influencer is the person that's really doing it, and he has his finger on the pulse of the neighborhoods and his demographic. And they are watching him, and they're watching everything that he's doing because they want to dress like him. They want to drink what he's drinking. They want to Ciroc. People love Puffy. They want to drink that vodka. And when you see all the other celebrities that he have promoting it, it makes you want to do it. So it's a difference between an ambassador and an influencer, and knowing that difference also helps with money and getting your money back, your ROI.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well
And yeah, definitely. And just to add to that, whatever agreement you go into it with them has to reflect that, right? If you want them to just be an ambassador and influencer, that contract's going to look very different than them having an equity stake in your company and actually being within the company to help you build it. And there's a significant difference in that, from the deal structure to the terminology of these contracts. So it's very important to get legal counsel and make sure that the contracts are fair and that they're honest and that they're straightforward about what the brand is bringing to the table and then what the artist is or the celebrity is bringing to the table.
Exactly.
I just have 2 minutes. I just have 2 minutes.
Joe, we actually got to wrap it up.
Okay.
So my apologies, but I just want to say,
No, it's all good. Hey, man, I know.
But thank you everyone being here, and I'm really happy you guys talk about the difference between, you know what, you're right, get out the calculator. You know what? We all have a calculator on this lovely thing called a phone, a smartphone. And I'm really happy you brought up the difference between ambassadors versus influencers. We actually had a client who did hemp pre-rolls, and they got David East to just be an influencer. That's it. Not the ambassador, but just an influencer for a set period of time. They did very well. So everyone here, I see that Canvas Ventures, you guys put all your email contact in the chat room. Once again, make sure when you look at the chat room, you hit all panelists and all attendees. Joe and everyone else here, thank you so much. I encourage everyone, especially if you're selling a product, you know, getting influencers and ambassadors can really help your product. But as was stated before, it comes down to the financials. It comes down to what kind of celebrity, ambassador versus influencer you're looking for and what type of return on investment. So once again, Joe, thank you so much. And everyone, that wraps up our panelist discussion for today. And now what we're going to do is hopefully everyone enjoyed all the speakers. I encourage everyone here to reach out to everyone on LinkedIn, send them an email, do follow-up phone calls. I always tell people if it takes more than 3 emails or 3 text messages, pick up the phone and call. You'll be amazed when you get done in a 10-minute conversation than 20 text messages or 20 emails. And you'll be amazed. People ask, even myself, to like, Dr. David, what's one of the keys to your success? I go, I pick up the phone and I talk. And the irony is that I was actually born with severe verbal apraxia. And I only used to be able to hum words. I went to a speech therapist when I was 24 years old. So pick up the phone, call. So let's get now to the next parts.